I used to believe that if you worked hard enough, if you sacrificed sleep, weekends, and sometimes even your sanity, the world would eventually give something back. Or at the very least, the people you loved would. Maybe that belief kept me going through the long nights in my tiny apartment, juggling 2 jobs while finishing online courses, convincing myself that every tired morning would eventually mean something, and one day it finally did. My promotion came suddenly, wrapped in a congratulatory email from my manager and a modest but life-changing salary increase. For the first time, I wasn't choosing between groceries and rent. For the first time, I felt like I could breathe without guilt pressing into my ribs. And the very first thought that bloomed in my mind was simple. I want to do something for my parents. After everything, their struggles when we were younger, their endless attempts to support both me and my sister, I wanted to give them a memory they'd carry for the rest of their lives. Something bigger than the usual birthday gifts or holiday dinners, something monumental, a luxurious, all expenses, paid week in Europe. With me, I researched for days, browsing flights at midnight, comparing hotel reviews, making spreadsheets of attractions my parents always talked about but never believed they'd see. My mother once said she wished to stand in front of the Eiffel Tower just once before she dies. My father wanted to see the canals of Venice because it doesn't even look real. They never had the money and they never asked. So I asked for the time off work, booked the tickets, paid the deposits, and printed the itinerary on heavy cream, colored paper. I even bought a navy folder to present it in because it felt like a gift worthy of ceremony. The night I told them, I drove to their house with butterflies in my stomach. They sat on the couch, my father with his glasses perched on the tip of his nose, my mother flipping through a magazine she wasn't actually reading. My sister Mia lounged across the recliner with a bag of chips, scrolling endlessly on her phone. "I have a surprise for you," I said, placing the folder on the coffee table. My mother's brows lifted. "For us?" "Yes," I said. "Open it." She flipped it open, and her jaw dropped. My father leaned in, his eyes widening behind his glasses. "You booked all of this," he whispered. "Paris, Rome, Venice, just like we always talked about." I said, heart pounding, "A full week, and I'm coming with you." And my father's eyes glistened. My mother covered her mouth. For one breathtaking moment, I felt like I had reached some milestone in our relationship that I had longed for my entire life. My mother wrapped her arms around me first, then my father joined. The warmth of their embrace filled me with something fragile and bright. I didn't notice Mia until she spoke. "Wow," she muttered, not looking up from her phone. "Must be nice to have money now, Mia." My mother scolded lightly. "What, I'm just saying." I ignored her. I didn't want anything to spoil this moment. "We leave in 3 weeks," I said brightly. "I already handled passports, luggage suggestions, and everything you'll need." My mother squeezed my hand. "You didn't have to do this." I wanted to. I said, I really wanted us to do something unforgettable together, and I meant every word. As I drove home that night, the streetlights glowing like little promises, I imagined strolling through Paris with them, taking pictures, laughing, maybe even feeling like a real family for once, where I wasn't just the reliable daughter and Mia wasn't the center of every crisis. For the first time in a long while, I felt excited, hopeful, proud. But looking back now, I realize I mistook their gratitude for something deeper, something unconditional. I didn't see the cracks yet. I didn't know that betrayal can grow quietly, like a shadow behind the door, waiting for the right moment to step into the light. The message arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, one of those slow days at work when even the clock seemed bored. I was sipping lukewarm coffee at my desk when my phone buzzed with a notification from the airline. At first, I thought it was just a reminder to check in early, or maybe an automatic itinerary update. But the subject line stopped my breath. Your name, change request has been processed. For a few seconds, I just stared at it, unable to move. My first thought was simple disbelief. Name change, I didn't request anything. The trip was set. Everything had been finalized weeks ago. There was nothing left to change. My hands shook as I logged into the booking portal, and then the world tilted. My name was gone from the reservation, erased, replaced with Mia Harrison, my sister. For a moment, everything inside me went cold. I checked again, hoping it was a glitch or some kind of mistake. My name hadn't simply been moved. It had been completely removed from the passenger list. The flight, the hotels, the guided tours, every single thing I had arranged. Now it was Mom, Daddy, and Mia. Know me? Before my brain could fully process the betrayal, my emotions surged up like a tidal wave. Confusion, anger, heartbreak, disbelief. And all I could think was, they replaced me. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to my parents' house, barely remembering the trip at all. My heart hammered against my ribs the entire way, each beat echoing the same question, why? I didn't bother knocking. I walked in. My mother was calmly folding towels in the living room, humming to herself as though nothing in the world was wrong. She looked up and smiled. Sweetheart, what brings you? Why was my ticket changed? I demanded, my voice shaking. Her smile faltered. That. I repeated, my voice cracking. Mom, that was my seat, my ticket, my trip with you. My father walked in from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a napkin. He didn't look surprised, not even guilty, just mildly annoyed. We were wondering when you'd see the email, he said. I felt something sharp twist inside my chest. So you did this. We talked it over, he said, as though this were a logical household decision instead of a betrayal. We think you've been stressing yourself too much at work. You need rest. I was excited. I whispered. This was supposed to be our trip. That's the thing, my mother said gently, as if explaining something obvious. We realized Mia needed it more. I blinked at her. Needed it more. Yes, she said. Your sister's been going through so much lately. Mia hasn't worked in over a year. I cried. She sleeps until noon and watches TV for a living. My mother's lips tightened. That's unkind. It's true. Before anyone could speak, Mia stepped out of the hallway, dragging a bright pink suitcase behind her. One I recognized as brand new. You're early, she said smugly. Mom said we were leaving for the airport in the morning. I stared at her. You knew, she shrugged. They told me last week. They asked if I wanted to come instead since you're always busy. I mean, it makes sense. I actually have time. I felt like I'd been slapped across the face. You took my place, I whispered. No one took anything, and my father snapped. This trip is a family gift, right? Mia is family too. But I was supposed to go, I said, the words barely holding together. I planned this for us. You're overreacting, my mother said dismissively, waving her hand. We'll take pictures for you. Pictures? From the trip I dreamed about, the one I paid for. The one they were taking without me. And the worst part? They didn't seem to see the problem at all. My mother patted my arm. Can you drive us to the airport tomorrow? We don't want to inconvenience your sister. I stared at her, numb. They weren't just replacing me. They were expecting me to help them do it. Something inside me broke in a way that felt permanent, like a string pulled too tight for too long. I walked out without another word. That night, I sat alone in my apartment while the walls seemed to close in around me, staring at the itinerary I printed with so much love. My phone buzzed with another notification. This time from Mia. Thanks for the trip, sis. Europe, here I come, red. Sparkles. I turned off my phone. And for the first time in my life, I understood what betrayal really felt like, not sharp or dramatic, but slow and suffocating, like a bruise spreading beneath the skin. The trip hadn't even started yet, and I was already the one left behind. The first morning after they left, silence filled my apartment like fog. Thick, suffocating, heavy with the weight of everything unsaid. Their flight had departed at 6:45 a.m. I knew because I'd kept refreshing the departure page long after I'd sworn I wouldn't. Part of me hoped, pathetically, that someone would call at the last minute, say this was a mistake, tell me to come. But the phone stayed dark. Instead, at 9:03 a.m., the first photo arrived, a blurry selfie of my parents smiling wide in the airplane cabin and Mia flashing a peace sign between them. We made it. No wish you were here. No thank you again. Just proof they were happy without me. I stared at the picture until the screen dimmed. Day one, I cried. Not soft tears but raw, aching sobs that wrung my chest dry. Tears for the little girl inside me who had tried so hard to earn love that should have been unconditional. Tears for the woman I had become, overworked, overlooked, and always trying to prove her worth. Day two, I cried less and thought more. Thought about the years of being the responsible one, the designated driver, the tutor, the bill payer, the crisis fixer. Every memory sharpened the same realization. I had never truly been a daughter. I had been a tool. By the evening of day two, numbness settled in. Not the frightening kind, but a quiet, calculating calm. On day three, the clarity arrived. Another message buzzed on my phone. A photo of Mia in front of the Eiffel Tower, captioned, "Living the Dream," with a string of heart emojis. Something inside me finally snapped into place, not in anger, but in resolve. I opened my laptop. The thing about planning a trip is that you learn exactly how it works, who controls what, which payments are non-refundable and which aren't. And because I had been the one to arrange every detail, almost everything was still under my account. They had taken my place, but they had forgotten one crucial thing. I still held the strings. I clicked into the hotel dashboard. The suite I'd booked for them was stunning. 2 bedrooms, balcony views, breakfast included. A few clicks later, suite became standard double room. And the price difference was refunded back to my card. Then I canceled the upgrade that included airport transfers and welcome baskets. Next, the skip, the line museum passes, the gondola ride reservation, the private winery tour, cancellation after cancellation. Each confirmation email felt less like vengeance and more like liberation. The final step was the car rental. I had prepaid it, but it was still fully refundable. I clicked cancel reservation and watched the words confirm on my screen. Hot adrenaline pulsed through me, but it wasn't revenge that filled me. It was power. For once, I wasn't the doormat. For once, I was choosing myself. Hours later, my phone exploded with notifications. "Mom, the hotel says we don't have the suite. What's going on? Dad, why were the tours canceled? Mia, did you mess with the car rental?" I didn't answer, not then, not the next day, not even when they called repeatedly, frustration turning to anger, then desperation. Instead, I went to my first therapy session, something I had been avoiding for years. I talked until my throat hurt. About being the responsible child, about the burden, about the constant fear of disappointing them. My therapist listened quietly, then said the simplest thing: love without boundaries isn't love, it's servitude. Those words cracked me open. Over the next week, I went to work early, left on time, made myself real meals, took long walks, and even started reading again. My world grew larger just as the space my family occupied shrank. By the time they were due home, I was not healed, not fully. But I was no longer the daughter who would crumble at the smallest guilt trip. They came back angry. They came back loud, but they didn't come back to the same version of me. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of losing them. I was afraid of losing myself again, and I refused. They returned 3 days later than planned. Not because they wanted to extend their trip, but because they were forced to juggle rearranged hotel bookings, last last-minute transportation, and unexpected expenses, things I used to handle for them. Without complaint, I knew they were home the moment my doorbell rang, loud and insistent. The knock came next to frantic, angry pounding. I took a slow breath before opening it. My mother stood there first, face flushed and tight. My father hovered behind her, jaw clenched. And Mia, sunburned, irritated, and wearing a scowl, dragged a souvenir bag like it weighed 100 pounds. "There you are," my mother snapped, pushing past me into my apartment as if it belonged to her. "We need to talk." They stormed inside without permission, filling the space with the same entitled presence I'd grown up catering to. But this time, I didn't shrink. I simply closed the door and waited. "What exactly were you thinking?" my father demanded, turning on me. "Canceling all those reservations. Do you have any idea how embarrassing it was?" I crossed my arms. "About as embarrassing as being replaced on my own trip." Mia scoffed dramatically. "Are you seriously still on that? Grow up. Things didn't go perfectly for us either. You could have messed up our whole vacation." "I did nothing to you," I said calmly. "You did everything to me," without hesitation. My mother pinched the bridge of her nose. "We've taught you better than to act so spiteful." That almost made me laugh. "Spiteful? You stole my gift, replaced me, and expected me to drive you to the airport. And I'm the spiteful one." My father stepped forward. "It was a family decision. You're too busy. You would have complained the whole time." "No." I cut in sharply. "I would have taken care of everything like I always do." Silence settled. My mother's expression faltered just a little, as if she wasn't prepared for resistance. "You could have talked to us," she said, trying for guilt. "I tried," I replied. "For years, every time I helped you, every time I sacrificed something for Mia, every time you asked me to fix something you broke, I tried so hard you never even noticed I was drowning." Mia rolled her eyes but didn't interrupt again. My voice softened not for them, but for the part of myself that had been waiting far too long to speak. "I planned this trip because I wanted one good memory with you, one moment where I felt like a daughter, not a safety net, but you didn't even think twice about replacing me." My mother's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "So yes," I said, "I canceled what I paid for, because it was mine, and you don't get to erase me and still use me." My father muttered something under his breath, but I didn't care anymore. For a long moment, none of them spoke. And then Mia, of all people, broke the silence. "This is stupid. Let's just go back to how things were. You know we need you." There it was, the truth. Not affection, not regret. Need for my money, need for my reliability, need for my silence, but not me. "I'm not going back to that," I said, shaking my head. "I'm done being the default solution to everyone else's choices." My mother's voice cracked slightly. "So you're really abandoning us?" I swallowed, steady and sure. "No, I'm choosing myself, finally." They didn't like that answer. But for the first time in my life, I didn't bend. Eventually, they left angry, confused, and without the control they once had over me. The door closed behind them with a soft click that felt like the end of a long, exhausting chapter. Over the next few months, I built a life that belonged to me. I got promoted again. I moved to a new apartment in a new city. I traveled alone this time and saw Paris with my own eyes, on my own terms. I walked by the Seine at sunset, feeling lighter than I had in years. My parents reached out occasionally, not with apologies, but with questions disguised as guilt and needs disguised as concern. I responded politely, firmly, with boundaries that no longer wavered. And when I hung up each time, I felt a quiet kind of victory. Not the explosive kind, not the vengeful kind, but the kind that comes from finally choosing yourself over the people who never chose you back. In the end, sweet revenge wasn't about hurting them. It was about saving me.